Welcome to a Legendarium special about making a medieval Christmas feast. In this installment, we will be talking about why people saw feasting as the perfect way to celebrate Christmas, and most importantly, what they ate. Christmas first became part of the English language during the 11th century from the Old English expression Christ's Mass, meaning Festival of Christ. Yet the influences for this winter celebration date back far earlier. Since the cold made regular workdays almost impossible, and farmers had just brought in the harvest, people could afford to take some time off. Of course, it's unlikely that Christ was born in December, as the New Testament refers to the shepherds coming in from the pasture to see his birth. And since December is the rainy season in Judea, both sheep and shepherds would be indoors. Yet since the church couldn't get the pagans to stop celebrating winter festivals, they decided that if people would make merry, they'd make merry in honor of Christ. Of course, Jesus' birthday was a topic of contentious debate within the church, and some early Christians were against birthdays completely. Yet Pope Julius I, who reigned in the 4th century, settled on December 25th as Christ's birthday, conveniently also the time of the winter festival. During late antiquity, Christmas celebrations kept close to Roman Saturnalia. In the early Middle Ages, Christmas was less popular than the Epiphany on January 6. The Epiphany celebrated the visit of the three kings, or magi, to the baby Jesus with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Indeed, Christmas was not originally a time for fun and frolics, but a chance for quiet prayer and reflection during special services. It seems that Christmas really took off during the medieval warm period around 900 AD, when pleasant weather meant bountiful crops and more food, especially after harvest time. And after all that work, people didn't get just one Christmas day, but 12 days, collectively known as Christmastide. December 25th, Christmas Day, became so important by the 11th century that kings often chose it as a coronation day, including William the Conqueror. Since the church held to Lenten rules for the days leading up to Christmas, people mainly ate vegetables and rice in the days leading up to Christmas Day. And by December, medieval communities would be awash in grain, salted fish, vegetables, and meat. Any animal not to be used as breeding stock the next year would be butchered, since they couldn't afford to feed extra animals through the winter. One animal in particular that didn't fare well during Christmas would be the boar. Medieval people dreaded the boar, describing it as Satan's hound. And they felt that way for good reason. It could weigh up to 560 pounds, have a 4-foot stride, and run up to 30 miles an hour, not much more than a flash in the woods to most eyes. Medieval lords considered hunting them to be the height of courage and skill at arms. The peasants who assisted them might not have felt that way, since they had to poke through the forest for hours to find the vicious beasts. After they flushed it out, assuming the boar didn't gore them alive, the lords would chase them down on horseback with specially designed boar spears. Some medieval accounts described impaled boars working their bodies through the ash wood shafts to kill their killers. And if the lords won their hunt and survived, they made boar's head. Their cooks burned off the thick, bristly hair, creating a foul stench. Next, they removed the skull with a knife, taking care not to cut through the cheeks and ruin the meal. Finally, they stuffed the boar's head with meat, even putting in painted currants for eyes and smearing ash on the boar's head to give it its original color. The boar's head was considered so standard on the medieval table that if a real one could not be killed, an artificial one made of cake would be served. It was even the subject of Christmas songs, like the medieval jingle, "The boar's head that we bring here betokeneth a prince without peer is born this day to buy a steer, Noel, Noel." While boar's head was the most popular item on the Christmas menu, it was not alone. The higher up the socioeconomic ladder you were, the bigger the feast was, not surprisingly. King John of England threw a Christmas feast in 1213 that included 24 hogsheads of wine, 200 head of pork, 1,000 hens, 50 pounds of pepper, 100 pounds of almonds, 2 pounds of saffron, a yellow spice worth its weight in gold, and for some reason 10,000 salted eels provided by the Sheriff of Canterbury. Even nobles a bit further down knew how to spread some Christmas cheer. Bishop Richard of Hereford invited 41 guests to a Christmas feast in 1289. Over the 3 meals held that day, the guests ate 2 cows, 2 calves, 4 does, 4 pigs, 8 partridges, and 40 gallons of red wine to wash it down. Yet the lords didn't wholly forget those who brought in the food, and they threw the peasants a feast as a thank you for their hard work. They granted families loaves of bread and meat dishes. Sometimes even a family's dogs received a loaf of the Lord's bread to eat. Generous lords gifted their peasants beef, bacon with mustard, all the beer they could drink, and even wood for cooking it. Since lords hunted deer, they gave the guts, lungs, hooves, and other bits they didn't care for to the peasants. This offal, known as humbles, would be mixed with vegetables, honey, and anything else at hand to make a meaty dish called humble pie. It went along with a relatively modest peasant feast, which included huge black sausages, loaves of brown bread, and vegetable soup. On Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, the rich provided the poor with a hollow clay pot that had a slit in the top. After they smashed it open, they could take out a few copper coins as a Christmas present. That wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.